don't want to cross the streams.
Nope, that's right.
Hey, that's pretty good. That's pretty appropriate. Don't cross the streams.
Don't cross
for
the
the live stream.
Yeah.
All right. So,
like it.
Joe, if you want to post this on your thing, I'm gonna go up to X, and
Cool.
I'm going to quote retweet it right now. Joe. Oh, hang on. I have a.
I'll just retweet what you post.
Yeah, that's perfect. I have a text expander. There we go. Notice it there. Now, today
You should be tagged in the original tweet from
I
this
see the
show.
he
business
is.
brain
Yeah.
tweet. Yeah, I can just
that's
retweet
it.
that, right? I'm
You
staring
got
at
it.
Yes, sir.
myself.
Yep.
Sweet.
Joe.
I will follow Joe Benson. There we go.
Joe Benson.
Great.
Awesome.
Already picked up a follower. Winning.
See? Dude, that's it. Joe. There we go. All right. So if you're just joining us now, we're talking with Joe Benson from Eversight today, and we're getting ready to actually start recording. I'm going to post this on my site. We're trying to push in, get as many people in here as possible. If you don't follow Joe, make sure you go follow him at Joe Benson X. You can find it on my account or Dave's account or Joe's account. Cool. I'm ready to go anytime you are, Dave.
I am too. All right. We got everything right. That's recording.
573. Yep.
Right? Yep. All right. Here. Oh, wow.
Whoa.
All right. I'm being a klutz now. We're in trouble now.
That's usually my role.
I know. Dude, it's been a crazy couple of days. Yeah. All right. Why not? Let's see what we can do. Here goes nothing. Business Brain, episode 573 for Wednesday, August 14th, National Financial Awareness Day 2024. Greetings, folks, and welcome to Business Brain, the show where we take a few ideas, we crunch them, we dissect them, we use them to help tune each of our business brains every single time we get together so that we can keep living those charmed lives. Here in Durham, New Hampshire, I'm Dave Hamilton.
And out here in Northern California, I'm Shannon Jean. I'm excited about this show, Dave. You know why?
Tell me why, Shannon.
Because I don't have to talk as much because we have a guest.
We do. We do.
So it's always good to have someone, and one of my good friends who I've met via X, the X platform. I feel like I know Joe Benson, who's joining us today from Eversight. I feel like I've known Joe forever, but we connected earlier this year, right? In January or something like that. So Joe, thanks. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us today and coming on the live stream and the podcast.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me. Been watching the podcast for a while now. Big fan. So it's nice to join you guys live.
Yeah. So tell our listeners I asked you before we recorded. So you own a company called Legend, which I really like, but the main services that I see you promoting on X and stuff we talk about is Eversight. And tell us how this all works and the structure and how you got into the business.
Yeah, happy to. So to talk about how we got into the business, you have to go way back. I'll keep the story pretty quick, but I was 12 years old. We were in New Zealand. My family was in New Zealand, and my dad was selling his practice. He's a dermatologist, and the internet was fairly new at the time. This is 1997, roughly. And the guy that he had built his website actually built it in our living room on our computer. And Dad asked if I was interested in kind of sitting behind him and watching him make some changes. And I was. And so he showed me how to make the most basic website you could ever imagine and change colors and fonts and that sort of thing. And I was instantly hooked. So fast forward, what was a hobby for a long time became something that I actually made $400 on building a website for my high school teacher's dance studio. And then my older brother, when I graduated high school, was finishing college. We kicked off kind of this side project at the time named Benson Technology. Real unique.
It's powerful.
Yeah, let's go. And that kind of, over time turned into Legend. Legend is a full service digital marketing agency. We've been around for just over 20 years. About 3.5 years ago, roughly, we decided to push this new service, a branded service of ours that we called Eversight. So Eversight is a website as a service. Rather than spending all of your big bucks up front on a website, 12, 15 grand, whatever it may be, for a nice custom site, it's a monthly service. So you're only a few bucks in early on, and you spend the rest of that money on marketing, which hopefully makes you more money. And so we launched this again about 3.5 years ago, and we've had so much success with it and a lot of hype, and it's been a lot of fun that we are actually in the process of rebranding Legend to Eversight. We're going to go all in on Eversight as the brand moving forward. Makes so that's kind of how it all works together.
No, it's really smart. And I love that you had this hobby and then suddenly $400 was like, wait, this can be a business. Because we say that all the time. You don't
it's a brain switch. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the switch. You don't need to earn a lot of money to realize that you have something that can earn a lot of money if you apply yourself to it. So yeah, love that.
That's
absolutely.
That's great. And so tell me, I want to ask you, you're on X a lot. That's how we met and everything. How has that changed your business? Has it driven more traffic? Is it, more eyeballs coming in? One of the things that, if you should go follow Joe Benson X up on X, and they do these great roasts of websites. They did mine, and they go through and talk about, here's what we would do. Here's this. It's just a really clever concept. Tell us about that exposure on X and how it's helped your business.
Sure. So it's been great, and in a word. But I actually had a friend, shout out to Patrick Dichter, who has been on X quite a bit longer than I have in terms of trying to push his brand and his name. And he, told me a few times over the course of probably 6 months, he's like, Joe, marketing, you can post content, just post about what you're doing on a daily basis, get on X. And so I ignored him at first. I'm like, I got 100 followers. It's not going to go anywhere. Eventually I gave in when this kind of peer group, Shannon, that I met you through, came along, and I started posting regularly and found out quickly that, one of the best ways to grab a following is to find a way to create value for the community. And so the idea of the roasts came up, where ask anybody on X to give me their URL for their business website, and we give a free, usually 5-minute roughly roast, giving them ideas on how they can improve their conversion rate, ultimately, improve their website to get more leads. So we've been doing that for a while. Happy to do that for anybody that's listening now. You can go to eversight.com/roast. And there's a form there you can submit, and we'll get you a roast. Otherwise, connect with me on X directly.
That's cool. I think it's brilliant. I was a little worried when you did mine, but it also worked. So yeah, it's good. I was a WordPress guy forever because I like how easy it is to get in, get my hands dirty, but I don't know why. Maybe I got more exposure this year or whatever, but I just can't keep the dirtbags away from trying to break into it. And I've had to, add some different levels of protection and word fence and all this kind of stuff. And so his team is in the process of redesigning my website, and just a great experience that I've been impressed by how the process goes. 'Cause it's like, step, okay, great, step, next, they're kind of leading you down the path to build something that I'm pretty excited about. I think it's great.
And so when you say it's a website as a service, Joe, you're taking care of all the hosting, you're taking care of everything, including the design of it. Is that right?
Yeah. So it's the design, but in addition to the design, a custom design that's specifically for your brand, not a template that we're just throwing some colors on top of. Beyond that, any updates indefinitely thereafter, once the website launches, we handle. It doesn't cost you anything extra than the monthly service. So if you have a new blog post, you have a new staff member, a new service, a new landing page, You give us the content, and our team is trained in sales psychology and marketing psychology, and we put this thing together to really try to make your website stand out, make a difference. It's kind of how it works.
That's cool.
But we're actually, one of the things, I know you were going to talk about challenges. I don't know if this is a good time to segue into that.
That was the next question.
It's always a good time for a segue.
Yeah. So, one of the challenges, this is not just for our company, but in our space, digital marketing, is the idea of perceived value for customers. So you can provide tons of value, but you're going to run into customers that just think, hey, websites are easy. Marketing is easy. And even if they're getting results, a lot of people want to know what they're getting, right? They want to see every action item that you've done, whether or not it really adds a ton of value at the end of the day. If it turns into more leads or not, doesn't really matter to them as much as they want to see, hey, I'm paying for something. And so one of the challenges we experienced, as we were growing over the course of the past 20 years is we can't just have results. They don't speak for themselves as much as you'd like them to. So we've actively put things in place where we're now communicating with clients, the process that you referred to, right? Where it's next step is this, next step is this, the next call is already scheduled. And then once you're launched, it's, hey, we did X, Y, Z for you. And now we've got this new ROI report to show you exactly what you're getting. That's probably our biggest challenge as a business is just making sure that we are effectively communicating all the value that we are providing and that people feel the value and don't have to go looking for it, if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense. We say on this show all the time, every business is the customer service business, right? And
yes,
and it's often not enough to just do what the customer needs. You have to tell them what you did. And I remember, Shannon, when you and I met, Shannon was buying banner ads on our websites from us. This is 100 years ago. Yes. And he was like, I love working with you guys because every week you send me a report that tells me what was served and how it was served and a breakdown of, how each of my creatives performed. And I was like, well, it's just an automated report, man. Like,
didn't matter.
Yeah. Right, but it didn't but no, that stuck with me. It's like, right. This is valuable to them. We look at it and we're like, well, of course they served. Like, we know they served. Like, we're not cheating people here. You know, like, so.
No, spot on.
Yeah.
So how do you, okay, so like one of the things I've was impressed with is you've got all these calls and they're designing stuff in Figma and giving me access so I could go in and do things and make changes. How do you get that idea across to your team of how to present that value, right? I mean, are you just constantly training these people and is it everybody that you're doing it with, the customer service people or these, because like I imagine once my site's up and running, I won't interact with the front team anymore. I'll be dealing with some other group, right?
Right.
How do you constantly, because that seems difficult to me, how do you get it across to your group over and over again? Like, hey, you got to show this and this is important.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So, of course, we've gone through the exercises of creating core values, and ours, spells care. And so we go through a lot of trouble, weekly meetings on regular check-ins to let customers know our team know that clients need to feel the value, over communicate, right? We tell every single week, it's a conversation. What can we do differently to make sure that they feel the value? We have Carrie's, who you'll probably work with next, Shannon. And one of her jobs is she has a set number of clients and she calls them twice a quarter, right? She's going to call and check in. Hey, what are you guys doing? Can we add a promo to your site? Or, are you looking to do any marketing? So it's really more communication. I think that's it. Expectation setting and over communicating are really the biggest things that you have to do.
Yeah.
So, and it sounds like you've systematized these things. Like it's not, we know we should reach out to the customer. It's, we know we should, and therefore we have a schedule on which we're going to reach out to the customer. And I think that's something everybody can learn from. Yeah. Love that.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
That's cool. So, okay, we know about your business. I want to talk about entrepreneurship a little bit. One of my favorite subjects. What's the toughest thing that you go through just as an individual to, because people always say, entrepreneurship can be incredibly lonely, and all this kind of stuff and grinding it out. What are the challenges of, let's say somebody wanted to get into, hey, I want to be in the digital space and I want to start this business. And, what are they going to face that you've overcome to succeed, with Eversight? Does that make sense?
Great question. Yeah. So one of the most difficult things in digital marketing, there are two things that come to mind immediately. One, it's ultra competitive. Right. So a digital agency anywhere can be the marketing agency for anybody anywhere. And so it's highly competitive. There's a lot of people in the space. So differentiating yourself, getting yourself in front of people is incredibly important and also difficult. And oddly enough, doing digital marketing campaigns for digital marketing agencies is a really, really difficult thing to do because they're so prevalent and people know we're online. If you run a Google Ads campaign, right? So typically if you run a Google Ads campaign for a local service business, you're going to get a large majority of those 60, 70% of people that click are potential customers.
Okay.
For digital marketing, I'd say it's 70, 80% are spam people trying to sell you something, right? So it's almost useless in a lot of cases, unless you get really niche and get really creative. It can be a big expense and not so much of a return. So those are kind of two challenges that really come to mind immediately when it comes to digital marketing.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
How do you manage your time? I know you have a big family. This is always a challenge, especially for me. I have more time on my hands now because I got more gray hair than everybody. But when my kids were growing up, I mean, it's always, I talk about time shifting and stuff. How do you manage? I don't know how you manage having 5 kids, but
oh, dude,
all boys, right?
A superhero wife is part of the equation.
That's awesome.
Well, it is, right? You're having your partner on board with what you're doing and helping you build it in whatever way that makes sense for your scenario.
Exactly right.
You need, if you have somebody that's pulling you back because they don't understand or they're not comfortable with the lifestyle that comes along with entrepreneurship, it talk about adding to the challenge. Like it might be a non-starter at that point. So
for sure.
Okay, so you got incredible wife. The spouse is the right spouse is a force multiplier. One of my favorite sayings. How else do you manage it? What's your days look like?
Yeah, so I think key for me is being intentional about a cutoff, right? So there was a long time, especially when my kids were younger. Early in my marriage, when we're really trying to get things going and growing, where I'd pull all-nighters on a regular basis. Wife would go to bed at 10 o'clock and I'm up till 3 a.m. working. And you can do that for a season. And I think anybody going into entrepreneurship, should keep that in mind, that sometimes that's necessary. But then as the kids get older and, your priorities shift a little bit and things are running a little bit more smoothly, you have a bigger team. I think it's key to be intentional about when it's time for your kids and your family, you put a cutoff. And for about a decade, we had a nice office space here in town, and it was easy to cut things off at that point. Somewhere between 5 and 6, cut it off, head home, and we were in good shape. But now that I work from home, we're fully remote at this point. We got employees in 7 different states and a few countries. It's even more intentionality required, right? So in my case, I make it easy on myself because I coach 3 of my son's soccer teams. And so I got to be done by 5:30 or I won't make practice in time.
Got it.
But yeah, I think it's, my day is pretty full of being on Zoom, like this kind of meeting. with the team, and then in front of the keyboard, and then at 6 o'clock, I'll cut it off. Of course, in the evening, I'll check email occasionally, that sort of thing, like most entrepreneurs do. But for the most part, it's
nice. Yeah, that's good. I think that's great. So even though I see you answering my DMs on X in the middle of the night, you're not working, right? I know how this is, dude.
Yes, you do. You do.
Not quite
There's
work.
There's work. There's working, and then there's working.
Yeah. That's a good point. I have a hard time because I enjoy it so much. I have a hard time stopping, and I have a hard time turning it off, and disconnecting. Like I was up at our river place for a few days, and man, I'm out. I'm doing all this physical stuff, working outside on the land and all this. And I love that too. But part of me in the back of my head is kind of anxious. Like, I'm not up on X today. I didn't have much activity today. I'm not this. And it's the time is, I guess it's just a forever challenge at different stages of your life.
Yeah, I was going to say, I definitely experienced exactly what you're talking about as my kids started to become that priority for me, and then therefore the business wasn't. I spent more time with them, and I carved out more time. And certainly, to use the term suffer, well, I might be correct. Like, the business suffered. It did not thrive as much as it could have because of that. But I don't regret any of it. And as the kids start to move on and get less and less time consuming with what they're doing, and especially once they leave the house, then it's like, well, I could just kind of expand back into doing the thing again, and those 3 a.m. nights and all those things come right back. And it's not necessarily a younger man's game.
Yeah, no, I would agree. That's
enough.
a good point. So I talk about mistakes all the time. Maybe it's because I've made so many. Is there some mistake that you can share? We've got 105 people on the live stream, and then we'll have thousands of people listening to the podcast.
Yeah.
Think about a mistake that you made and something that taught you a lesson, and also how you overcame it, how you powered through, something like that.
Yeah, I appreciate the question. So I think that the biggest mistake that we made early on was actually starting our company in a small town. So I love my small town, small town in Louisiana, but there are only so many businesses within an hour's drive from here. I mean, we have New Orleans, it's within 45 minutes, Baton Rouge is about 45 minutes. But even those are, small to mid-sized cities, relatively speaking. And if I could go back and do it again, we would have started in Houston or Dallas or some other larger metro area. I think would have been something that helped us grow much faster. We grew and we did well, but the rate of growth was limited to some extent because at the time, geography was a big deal. People wanted to work with a local agency. They didn't want to work with somebody that's 4 hours away. And so over time, as Zoom meetings became more of a thing, that really helped us. And oddly, COVID, although we certainly had a lot of challenges for our business through the COVID time frame, one thing that really made a big impact in a positive way for us was the kind of general acceptance of meeting over Zoom, right?
Yeah.
We eventually did expand to Houston and Dallas, but my brother and business partner would drive every 2 weeks to Houston and then over to Dallas to meet with potential clients because they still wanted to meet in person, right?
Yeah.
And so once we were able to remove that geographical barrier and do this with those potential clients, it made a huge difference. One other thing to mention there, although we have a great team of locals, I think we've scooped all of the great local team members up. When you're in a small town, the pool of talent you have, right?
Less, right? Yeah.
It's small. And so since we've gone fully remote, this was probably 4 or 5 years ago, we've got the entire world, certainly the whole country, to pull from. And man, that's made a huge impact on our team. So
That's cool.
Yeah.
Talk about working with family members. I see people posting online about it all the time. I've worked with my wife. Dave's worked with his wife for a long time. How is it, working with your brother? Are there different considerations or agreements or rules, or how is? I see you smiling there. I know it can be a little tricky. It can also, it can be wonderful. And but how have you addressed that in a different way versus just working with a non-related partner?
Yeah, good question. So I have 5 brothers and 1 sister, and I'm not sure. I mean, I love them all, but I don't think there's another one that I could last 20 years in business with, right?
I hear you. I hear you.
It just so happens that Rob, he's my oldest brother, and I really, from when we were younger, we had a buddy system growing up, and he was my buddy, my older sibling that I stuck with when we went to places. He was responsible for looking after me, and we just kind of always got along, and we're interested in the same things. And so, for us, it's been pretty smooth. I would say the key to that has been making sure to not make business related things personal, because they're not. And he and I are both very good at that. And then the other piece of the puzzle is communication, right? I think that's with any partner, but in particular, if it's family, you just have to be open. And we call it healthy conflict. If you got a problem, let's talk about it. Let's talk through it and make it, make it better.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I think that concept of healthy conflict is one of the most important things to have in a business partnership. You don't necessarily need it with your employees, although if it works out, sure. But when you've got a business partner, especially if it's an equal partnership, but even if there's if it's a working partnership, I think embracing that healthy conflict, not that you want to have problems, but you want to have an open venue where problems can be addressed easily without it having to fester up into something where you're like, all right, we got to have a come to Jesus moment. It's like, no, there don't need to be any come to Jesus moments if you address it early.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Probably life in general, man, your relationships and being able,
100%.
because it is, not that this is a relationship show, but I mean, most of the time when I wind up in some kind of argument, we often wind up arguing about how I'm arguing, right?
Yes.
It's very common. I'm always like, wait a minute, what did we start, arguing about in the
We've
first
lost
place?
the point here.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. And at this point, I'm just like, oh, okay. So I think that healthy conflict, I love that concept. I think it's terrific. Well, Joe, thanks for coming on. Anything else you'd like to leave with us before you go? And also, what's the best way for people to learn more about Eversight and to connect with you?
Yeah, appreciate it, man. The easiest way to connect with us would be to go to Eversight.com. You can call us. You can, schedule a call to jump on kind of a quick demo. We'll show you what we can do. Or you can find me on X, as you pointed out, at Joe Benson X. We're a full service digital marketing company. We have a few special things up our sleeves, so we'd love to talk to you if you're looking to grow online. But Otherwise, just thanks for having me, guys. It's been a lot of fun. Appreciate it.
Oh, it's been a pleasure meeting you. And I love some of these ideas. That healthy conflict thing, like Shannon, I feel like
T-shirt.
a T-shirt,
like
yes. Also, it might need to go into the default working agreement too,
that's true.
Paving the path for that relationship, so everybody knows we are planning to have healthy conflict, not unhealthy conflict. Yeah, I like that.
That, as we say in the Content Cowboys group, that's a post.
That's right.
And if you don't post it, Joe, I'm going to post it. So,
fair enough.
Yeah. Thanks again. Appreciate it. Stick around here as we roll out and do that. But appreciate you listening, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out with us, everybody. Come check us out, businessbrain.show. Send in your notes, feedback at businessbrain.show. Sign up for the mailing list, and Keep living that charmed life. We'll see you on Friday. And we're out. Nicely done,
Cool.
man.
Yeah, that's great.
Cool.
That's good.
Thanks,
That's good. Cool. So we're going to we'll kick you out of here in a minute, and we're going to do our Friday episode. We'll talk about some of the things that we talked about and all that stuff. I forgot I was going to ask you about the chili bin, but we'll have to do that.
Oh, we'll have to have you back. Yeah.
We'll have you back on and talk about the workspace structures. So, and you're moving your office down there. Is that the plan?
It is. So I'll
Nice.
spin this real quick. This
Nice.
big beam is a new beam.
Yeah.
So we can support more of a floor, and then that's my staircase you see. But we're in the process of phase 2.
That's cool.
So yeah, plenty of fun to come.
Yeah, that's awesome. Right on, man. I will see you up on X in the DMs, and I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right.
Fun stuff. Pleasure getting to meet you, Joe.
Yeah.
Stay in touch.
Likewise,
Please do. Yeah.
All right, man. See y'all.
All right. Later.
Bye.
Awesome. Yeah, that was good. I'll follow up with him on that stuff. And
cool.
So now, if you're in between listening, Dave is fiddling his knobs, as we say in the industry.
Do we? Is that what we say?
I've always wanted to say that.
Have you? Are you happy now?
At least for the last 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So Dave will get everything going so we can publish quickly after the fact. I will, he'll create the recording of the episode, and then I'll tweak a few things after, create some imagery, and before we post it. And that last episode will come out Wednesday. And then stick around because we're going to do a Friday episode. I have no idea what we're talking about, so it's just going to be a free flow Friday. And
I like this.
I do have
Friday.
I have one interesting topic that I want to bring up
Great.
that I want to talk to, and that'll be great. But
I'm almost ready here.
Cool. That sounds good.
Yeah.
I'm happy that to do it. So we have
that.
a few less viewers than that massive event they had last night on X. It has over 1 billion views. I heard this morning. Insane.
That's crazy.
Yeah, isn't that? I don't even know it's possible.
That's crazy.
But, yeah.
Those are my audio settings. Camera, audio.
Perfect.
Yeah, okay, great.
Awesome.
Alrighty. Now I can dial us back in
Okay.
with just us. Okay, great. And that's going to be fine. It's still uploading. But
Still doing its thing.
should be okay. Okay, yeah, it's still cooking.
Great.
Going really slow, but that's okay. Doesn't matter to me, as long as it's still going. All right, let's rock, shall we?
Cool. I'm ready when you are.
Here we go. Business Brain, episode 574 for Casual Friday, Free Flow Friday, August 16th. That's National Roller Coaster Day. I think it's also Shannon's birthday, 2024. Greetings, folks, and welcome to Business Brain. Welcome back to Business Brain if this isn't your first episode. Here, we take an idea or three, we crunch them, we analyze them, we dissect them, we use them to tune each of our business brains every time we get together so that we can all keep living those charmed lives. And as usual, here in Durham, New Hampshire, I'm Dave Hamilton.
And out here in sunny California, I hope to be in a kayak on the water when this episode releases on Friday, which you're right,
nice.
It is my birthday. So
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Get out of the office for a little bit, get away from the computer and get out. I bought these amazing folding kayaks.
We have some of those.
God,
are
had
yours the origami kayaks?
They are the origami kayaks, yeah.
We were
Oric
part of the
or-
first Kickstarter of those and have had
that's
them
awesome.
for several years. Yeah.
I love it. So we had, maybe this will tie into the topic. We're just going to do a free flow here today. So we'll see if this, how we relate it back to business. But I bought my wife this giant kayak, a regular kind of kayak, 2 people. Awesome. Great. Once you got it on the water. But the key phrase is once you got it on the water, because it's so big, so heavy. And, that led us not to use it as much because we couldn't get it to places. And then I came up on this site, which maybe I don't know if you can show it or not, but these
we might have
origami-
different ones. There are several.
I think the site you were just on is the one I have.
That's the one you have? Okay,
I
that's
think
not the
so.
one I have. The
but yeah.
Oru kayak or
Yeah,
something?
I have the Oru.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
These are
Yep.
the ones we have. And they are amazing because they fold up, they fit into a kind of a backpack. Well, it's a big pack, but where you can carry them, and it allows you just to get anywhere. And I love them, man. Yeah. We have I don't know which ones we have, but yeah, see how it folds
Sure.
up like that?
Yeah.
That is bad. That's badass. I mean, whoever thought of that? And it's a corrugated plasticky material.
Okay.
What kind do you have, Dave?
Ours are
brand?
ours are a completely different brand. It's like this looks like it's a thin shell, if you will.
It's pretty thin.
Yep. The ones that we have are a hard plastic, and you sit on top of them.
Oh, okay, great. Awesome.
But it folds up, and then you can like walk it down to the water or
Nice.
whatever. I mean, it's not light. Ours are about, I think, 35 pounds or something. So like, these are
kind of, maybe these are 20 pounds. or
yeah.
something like
They
that,
look.
but
It looks like they say some of them are as low as 18 pounds. The one that you have. Yeah.
That's right.
I
So,
think
yeah,
the
it's
company
cool.
that did ours went out of business, but I might be wrong. I don't know. The
the key
origami
is-
paddler
Ah,
is the
I
one
see.
that we had, and it looks that you can kind of.
That's cool. Yeah.
If you're watching the video. Otherwise, I'll put a link in the show notes to something that gets you close. But yeah,
Nice.
we have the origami
it's cool.
paddler there.
I think they nailed is the simplicity of this, of
Okay.
getting you in the water as fast as possible. There's not, I had like this funky 2-wheel trailer thing that I pulled along this other massive kayak.
Yup.
And now the big giant kayak, it sits in our house up in Tahoe, and it just barely gets used because it's hard to get down to the water.
Yes.
So it's kind of interesting. But that's not what I want to talk about really today, Dave. Here's
Are
what I
you
want
sure?
to talk about. I'm positive. So we have this place up on the river in the Sierra foothills, and I love it. Fantastic. The river, McCalmany River, runs right through this property. But I had this problem with, I bought this property last year, and everything was great until about spring this year, and we started having problems with the water.
Okay.
And you're on a well, as it's a rural property, it's middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you the amount of minutes, but I can tell you the amount of frustration and effort I have put in trying to solve this problem with not enough pressure, iron in the water, the filters filling up with this irony mud kind of thing. And I have gone down the rabbit hole so many times and tried to push into figure this out, to all this research, because I'm just like, I can fix this. I know. There's got to be a way I can figure this out, right? Because I can fix almost anything.
Sure.
Finally had to call somebody. He gave me this, if you spend $15,000, I can fix your problem. It's like, oh, okay. And he's like, well, maybe there's a second way, $7,000 or $8,000. So, well, I'm going to go back and keep looking. Finally connected with someone that said something that just blew my mind. And he says, have you, all this, the main problem has been iron building up in the filters that shuts down the pressure and everything. And he goes, have you checked for a leak? Because if the well is pulling so much water out due to a leak, it'll build that iron up like
that makes
incredible
sense.
amounts.
Yeah, if you're drawing more water than you normally
Correct.
would.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, okay. So I spent the last 3 days trying to find this leak, which I did not find. And the guy who recommended this finally came out Monday, and we walked around for, let's say, about 3 minutes. And he points to the ground and goes, there's your leak right there. Right there. And I probably have walked by this space 50 times and didn't notice that it was wet. and I was like, I don't know. But as the key I'm getting at is, don't overlook the simple solutions or the simple cause of a problem. Don't
Occam's razor,
overcomplicate
man. It's Occam's
razor.
razor.
Yeah.
We had a very
nuts.
similar thing when we moved into this house. We built the structure that my office and studio are in was here, but the studio was not. It was barely framed out. That was it.
Oh, okay.
And so we finished it all off, and I soundproofed it and all these crazy things. And one of the things I did was I put mini splits in for air
Oh,
conditioning.
yeah. Awesome.
We already had heat here. In retrospect, I wish I had done mini splits with heat and air conditioning, but that's a whole different story. It's fine. So the guy that did it, it's a 2-zone system, and the zone in the office was always fine. And the one for the studio, he would come over and charge it up, and then within about a day and a half, it would not get cold anymore. And I had this guy come back, I don't know, 6-8 times, and it was like, dude,
Couldn't fix it.
there's clearly a problem. He's like, well, it must be in the wall or here and that and the other thing. I'm like, well, okay, well, then let's open the wall. Like, how do we fix
you gotta
it?
fix it. Yeah.
Dude, it's never worked. And finally, I got frustrated enough that I called someone else. Now, I'd already paid this one guy to install it, and it never worked. So, he kept coming back for free. And finally, I just called somebody else. And the guy's like, you have a leak. I'm like, well, I would agree with that. Like,
Okay.
obviously, yes.
Yep.
And he told me how to search for a leak, because he's like, you and I
Nice.
are both going to hunt for these leaks. He's like, he's like, with this type of, it's not Freon, but it's whatever the stuff is that they used 18 years ago. And he's like, it'll feel greasy. And I'm like, okay, great. And so I just go, and he's like, look for the joints first, because that's where leaks would normally happen. I mean, you might have a hole in a pipe.
That's where my leak was
Yep.
in the joint. Yep.
And he's like, and so he's like, great, I'm going to start outside, you start inside, and we'll wind our way. If we meet in the middle, we have to go back, And I don't know, within 10 seconds, I found the leak.
Yeah.
And we searched the rest of the line to make sure it was the only one. But finding the right service provider. So then he tightened up the leak, filled it, and I haven't seen him since. And it's been 18 years or something.
That's awesome.
It's finding the right service provider. And, you said something, I can fix almost everything. Right?
My mentality.
Same, but I have learned to temper that, because what I know that I can learn to fix almost anything. If I don't already know how to do it, I probably am not going to get it right or even know how to find it the first time. And I'm going to spend a lot of my time, energy, focus, distraction, all of that becoming the service provider that I should have just hired in the first place. Most of the time. I have skills. I can be valuable when I'm doing the things that I know how to be valuable with. Now, there's some things around the house. Like if you said, well, it's going to cost $10,000 to fix this. Okay. That's a number that gets my attention. And I'm like, all right, that's worth me spending an hour seeing if I'm the right person to try and fix this on my own, and or at least understanding it. And then beyond that, it's like, okay, great, we got to spend the $10,000. Or I get multiple quotes just to make sure that, it's not $10,000 or $1,000 or something.
Yes.
Yes. But
it's challenging. And it's even like we had Joe Benson on the show for Wednesday and talking about, and I'm switching from my WordPress, which I've used forever, and I like the flexibility and everything, but I realized I need to do something beyond the realm of my capability for what I'm trying to build next for my business. And I'm super, I wouldn't say I'm cheap. I love spending money. Actually, I really enjoy it. It's fun. But I can't pay retail. I'm just not that guy. I'm always looking for the deal. And sometimes it comes around and bites me in the rear because I spend so much time trying to get the deal, But, when I started to reach, and like Joe did this roast of my site, I'm like, oh yeah, that's so true. I'm missing out here. Yeah, I'm so true. It's very amateurish what I put together in this. And even though I use like Divi and these things that help me do WYSIWYG and all that stuff, it's like, I really have to have somebody do it. And I have to give up this idea that I need to control every little thing. And, I calculated out. I'm like, I think I'm spending close to what I would spend to have somebody else do it anyway, and not including my time that I'm always jumping there. And what pushed me over the top was I just got hammered with a bunch of, attacks on the site and everything else. And they installed a bunch of garbage, and then I had to buy this other software to protect me from those people and all this crap. Yeah, it was nuts. And
I would say calculate your opportunity cost. Because like for me, one of the hardest hire I ever made was the first person I hired. That goes without saying. That's how it works. The second hardest was when I hired a programmer to create something that I know how to create. Right. But it was, do I want to spend my time doing that, or do I want to spend my time doing whatever else I was doing? It was like, nope, I want to spend my time doing this. And the person I hired was a better programmer than me.
Yeah.
And that, there's a little ego swallowing to do there, because I'm a decent programmer. And it's like, oh, yeah, but like they're going to be better than me, and they're going to be focused 100% on this. And that's kind of the key is, as the business owner, we rarely get the luxury of being able to focus 100% on anything for a long stretch of time. And when you have a project that needs to get done, that's usually what it takes, is that dedicated focus. And I find it way easier to hire someone and control their focus than I do to control my own.
Yeah, I like that. And I would say I'm kind of going through the same thing I have this content manager that I recently hired, and I'm letting her, not letting her, but she's learned to go out and do stuff with my content that I normally would do. But I don't have, I have too many other things going on that I can't go spend time on LinkedIn. I just can't do it. And so she'll take the content that I created and go up and push it out to LinkedIn and adjust it as needed and do different things. And it's having a positive impact. But you have to give up, something.
You have to give up. That's what it is. You got to give up. So that I can fix almost anything. When I hear myself say that,
it's terrible.
That's like ding, 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 ding. Wait a minute. Who's the hero here?
No,
I don't
totally
need to be.
Problem. Yeah. Yep. I totally have that problem. Yep. Yeah. And so, okay. And then I have one more quick topic. I don't want to keep everybody too late today, but so I have a client that I'm working with, and guy, awesome, super smart, very successful, but he wants to get out and go on his own. He works for another company. And so, we came up with some things, and he said, great, I'm going to produce some data. And I said, great, come up with like 10 things. And he came back, and it's just with like a plethora of information, just a ton of stuff. And I was like, whoa. And I was thinking, and I haven't followed up with him on this yet, but I'm going to. But I think from a corporate perspective, what he produced back for me would have been like, wow, that's great. Look at all this data. It's massive.
Sure.
But I looked at it and I was like, oh, dude, this is so much.
It's over the top. Yeah.
It's over the top. And so I'm trying to teach him that, looking at it from an entrepreneurial aspect. And he said, oh, I'm going to go have some other people help me fine tune this. And I said, stop. Just now you should stop and pick 10 of those things, and now start taking action, and don't do any more planning. The planning phase is over.
You're done with that now.
You're done with that. You've done a great job. You got, like I said, the guy's really good. He's going to be wildly successful, I can tell, but it's almost like breaking habits that now I'm not a corporate person, so I could totally be wrong, but it just seemed like the volume of information, which was all really good data, and
it's not valuable. I'm not seeing the data, so I don't it's hard. I know I'm wrong. However, I also know that I am right, because you say something often, and it's a phrase that I have adopted as my own, which is always have a bias towards action.
Yes.
And
always.
Data collection can feel a whole lot like action.
Yeah.
Except
that's what I was
nothing
trying to do.
gets
Shake
done.
Him out of it. Like, stop.
Stop it.
Stop.
Yes. But in corporate America, especially middle management and very large companies, that data collection is considered the desired action. You are trained just collect data and do your thing, and then other people will process your data. And maybe they will, maybe they won't. I mean, eventually somewhere someone processes data, but probably what they do is they're like, All right. Well, we got to make a change to the business, so we're going to do this.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of it is certainly it's data driven and data informed, I will say. But a lot of times the people that are just executing on things, the executive staff, the people that are actually the executive staff, not necessarily in name, but in role, it's just like, okay, let's do it. And you do it. And you just get it done. And that bias towards action, in my book, wins 90% of the time. There are some things where collecting data first is important. The first one that comes to mind, of course, is I have a interest in aviation. And when you're in the plane and you're flying and there's a problem, you do not take action first.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
You stop and think, because what you currently have is altitude and speed. Now, your problem may cause you to lose one or both of those things. That's fine. But altitude and speed buy you time.
Yeah.
And so if you change anything about your altitude or speed, you might have cost yourself valuable time. So stop and think first. All right, what are all my options? And you can't spend forever coming up with your options, but it is good to breathe, think, decide, measure twice, cut once, that whole thing. That type of, and maybe measure twice, cut once is the right way to think about it. Like, is this one of those scenarios where it is good to measure twice before we cut? Not every scenario is, but some are. 90% aren't. Yeah. 90%.
Yeah. The action, because and again, it's coming back to the simplification thing. There's just no better way to learn than just to start doing it and start messing around and start, like, if you go back to businessbrain.show, you'll see that there is no first episode.
Right.
That's because I sucked. You know what I mean? And I didn't know what I was doing. And you were guiding me to learn. And there is no second episode. And so finally, when we got to the third or maybe even the fourth episode, Dave, who's in charge of the knobs and the sound, it's like, okay, let's go. Now we'll go ahead. So it's like a muscle. You just got to start putting in the reps, and you're not going to be good at the beginning, but that's how you're going to get better, and over. And don't let that planning and data collection get in the way of taking that action.
Yes. So, action.
That's
Love it.
That's my free flow for Friday. I hope you have a great day. I hope you're celebrating somewhere.
Of free flowing Friday.
Yeah, so you're celebrating my birthday somewhere. Lift a drink, have a beer for me. Cheers. Yeah. And we'll see you next week. Thanks for hanging out with us today.
Thank you so much, folks. And it's always businessbrain.show. That's where you can sign up for the mailing list. You always get the show notes and all the little details that we put into the show. You get them delivered right to you, so you'll never miss anything. We promise we don't spam you. Go sign up now. Have a great weekend. Keep living that charmed life. And we'll see you next week. Later. And we're out. Sweet.
Awesome. Cool. Very good. All right. So the 149 so people listening, thanks for hanging out with us. We're going to get these published if you want to hear them again. If you had some background noise or something that you couldn't hear us talking, you can hear it out. It goes out to
the beginning, maybe.
Yeah, I missed the beginning. We'll be on basically every podcast platform tomorrow, Wednesday, and again on Friday around noon. You got it. Thanks for hanging out. All right.
Later.